Hello, classmates. So, this video is going to be on the topics that were listed in the beginning. So, I'm discussing the potential bias throughout this course. One thing that really struck me was the initial IAT video we had to listen to on implicit bias towards Christianity versus Islam. I felt that this was an inaccurate determination made by the system based on how it was set up. So initially it had me pair Christianity with good and Islam with bad. And so it's almost as if I was trained on that initial to pair those that way. And then when it flipped it, it was hard for my brain to rewire. Potentially, yes, that could be part implicit bias, but at the same time, I felt it was also just like the way they set up their system. It was purposely supposed to make me trip up. So that was kind of one thing I really felt that the IAT tests didn't really do a good job of, because at least for me, that's how I initially wired them together. In regards to kind of our religion discussion, the initial post, going off kind of bias and personal beliefs and ethics, and first the practice of medicine. There's a religious practice in Nepal called Chapati, and I'm probably saying that incorrectly, so I apologize. This is a religious practice where menstruating women are seen as impure, and essentially during menstruation they're put into sheds and they can't communicate with any of the males in their household until their period is over, and they can only eat white rice during the dark hours, and the men have to leave it outside. They can't, again, be seen communicating with them. And when I initially heard of this, I thought this was sinful and there was no way that this was morally right. However, when talking with these multiple Nepalese women while I was there in the country, it became clear that this was their social norm and it was their everyday practice. We cannot judge or make assumptions of others based on these initial impressions or of our own experiences. So Kelly and I definitely took the time to educate ourselves with their culture and explore their thoughts as to why were they practicing this? What were the women's thoughts practicing this? How did they feel? And surprisingly, some of the women were totally okay with it. They were like, this is how our religion is based, and this is how we've kind of been going on for tons and tons of years. So that was interesting. Although we did meet one woman who was put in the shed once, and she said never again will she go back to the shed. So I thought that was very interesting. Another kind of bias that I've noticed within myself through going through all of this was I was at the climbing gym when a woman with a leg amputation walked through the doors. Immediately, my implicit bias jerked me, and I caught myself wondering, how could she have the strength to climb a vertical wall or safely maneuver the ropes or belay a partner or just be a safe person within the environment? Initially, I was questioning all of this, and then I was really frustrated with myself. I was feeding into the social construct that a person with an amputation cannot participate in the sport of climbing or other sports that require two legs as we think. It was shortly after this moment that I had a flash to John Wilson, the mountain biker who mountain bikes with one leg. During his video, he made a remark that he doesn't want people to feel sorry for him, that his amputation drives him to work harder. And I kind of thought about that when I looked at this woman, and I realized this woman just walked through the doors with one leg and is going to go climb a wall. She's a badass. It doesn't matter how she's climbing the wall. She could use 3 ropes, she could be using assistance, but she's out there doing it, and she had a big smile on her face. She may have a physical impairment to others visually, but she wasn't letting her stop her from participating in a potential activity that she loved. So I thought that was something that kind of struck me at that point. As I read through my classmates' posts, you guys all had some really good ones, and I enjoyed reading them. I kind of did some reflection on my own experiences based on kind of what we've discussed. I realized that, specifically regarding the sexual discussion, that sexual preference is an endless learning opportunity, as is all of the discussion posts. There's no right way to engage in any type of encounter. especially a sexual encounter. But as healthcare providers, we have to remain open-minded, engage with our patients, and acknowledge our bias. I was surprised to see that majority of health disparities lacked from preventative care. As PAs, we have the opportunity to advocate and represent these patients, ensuring they're receiving the appropriate, unbiased care. Once I settle into my community as a practitioner, I'm sure we all kind of feel this way, but I really want to strive to engage in my community events and uncover available resources for my future patients and just learn more about myself and learn more about the others without holding bias. I want to create an inclusive environment, and I want to try to hold myself accountable for as much of my own implicit bias as possible. I'll definitely fail at times, but it's worth a shot. But overall, kind of a takeaway I've took it from all of these discussion posts is that if we just took time to look inward at ourselves, we could connect with others on a stronger level, regardless of race, sex, religion, or politics. I attempt to take every day to connect with myself and recognize when I'm struggling with bias, and I do that with exercise for the most part. It gives me time to kind of check in with myself and see how I'm doing on my own level, focusing on not persuading or arguing, but instead listening to patients. My way is just one way. There's many ways to do things in life, and we can never solve implicit bias. We can only try to be aware of our own behaviors and actions and make a change or act on those. So I've had a lot of fun with these discussions with everyone, and I hope you all are doing well. See ya.